A long, long time ago, the Central Plains were divided into many tribes, constantly fighting over land and resources. In the south, the Yan Emperor's tribe was known for farming and medicinal herbs, but their military strength was weak. In the north, the Zhuoli tribe was fierce and powerful. Their leader, Chiyou, was born with a bronze head, an iron forehead, 4 eyes, and 6 arms. He possessed incredible strength and could forge unmatched weapons. One day, Chiyou led the Zhuoli tribe to challenge the Yan Emperor. After several defeats, the Yan Emperor had no choice but to seek help from the Yellow Emperor in the north. The Yellow Emperor, whose name was Zhuan Yuan, was a wise and capable leader. He understood astronomy and geography, invented war chariots, and could tame wild beasts. He agreed to form an alliance with the Yan Emperor to fight against Chiyou. The two sides agreed to battle on the plains of Zhuolu. On that day, the Yellow Emperor's army stood in neat formations, equipped with war chariots, spears, and bows. Chiyou's army, however, was like a torrent of black iron, their armor gleaming coldly under the sky. Not long after the fighting began, Chiyou conjured up a dense fog. White mist blanketed the battlefield, and soldiers could not even see their own hands. The Yellow Emperor's troops lost their direction, and their formation fell into chaos. At that critical moment, the Yellow Emperor ordered his invention, the south-pointing chariot, to be brought forth. On the chariot, a wooden figure's arm always pointed south. With it, his soldiers were able to find their bearings again, regroup, and counterattack. Chiyou saw that the thick fog had failed to crush the Yellow Emperor's army, and he roared in fury, his voice like thunder. Raising his blood-stained battle flag high, he called upon the gods to unleash a storm. In an instant, dark clouds pressed low, lightning struck the sky, and a fierce gale drove torrents of rain across the battlefield. War chariots sank deep into the mud. Soldiers struggled to move, and their spears and bows flew unbearably heavy. Rainwater mixed with blood, flowing down the slopes until the battlefield turned into a sea of mud. The Yellow Emperor stood tall upon his chariot, his black hair drenched by the downpour, his expression stern and unyielding. Tilting his head back, he cried out to the goddess Zhuanu for aid. Suddenly, a golden rift opened in the heavens, and Zhuanu appeared, radiant and solemn among the clouds. She bestowed upon the Emperor's sacred battle manuals and talismans, and sent forth the divine dragon Yinglong to his side. With its arrival, Yinglong unfurled wings so vast it blotted out half the sky, exuding a power that shook heaven and earth. With a single sweep of its massive tail, it summoned a deluge, a flood as fierce as a raging beast, crashing into Chiyou's ranks. Waves surged and rolled. War horses screamed and scattered, while soldiers were swept into the torrent, their armor dragging them down into the mud and floodwaters. The black-armored warriors of Chiyou resisted desperately, but their retreat had already been sealed. Beneath a sky torn by storm, lightning, and thunder, this clash was no longer just a battle of men. It was as if the forces of heaven and earth themselves had descended, pitting divine might against human will. The torrential rain finally began to subside, yet the sky remained dark and heavy, and the ground had become a swamp of mud and blood. Fallen chariots, shattered spears, and scattered corpses intertwined to form a vision of hell on earth. The mournful blare of war horns still echoed as soldiers from both sides fought in the mire, blades and swords flashing under the lingering lightning. At the center of the chaos, Chiyou's figure loomed like a demon god descended to the mortal world. His entire body was corded with muscle, his eyes burning scarlet, and his 6 arms wielded halberds with such speed that they blurred. Each strike whipped up a gale, the crossing blades forming a storm of steel that drove the Yellow Emperor's soldiers back, blood splattering into the mud and vanishing in an instant. "Who dares face me in battle?" Chiyou roared, his voice shaking the very earth. At the head of his army, the Yellow Emperor stood with eyes cold as starlight. Gazing upon his weary yet unyielding soldiers, he knew that only by slaying Chiyou himself could this blood-soaked war be brought to an end. Leaping from his chariot, he gripped the divine sword gifted by the goddess Zhuolu and charged straight toward Chiyou. The 2 sovereigns clashed in the mire, the clash of blade and steel exploding like thunder, sparks scattering as if the heavens themselves trembled. Chiyou's 6 arms swept and struck in relentless fury, his halberds crashing down like torrents of rain. The Yellow Emperor moved with his sword as though guided by the storm, each stroke of lightning-fast steel carrying unshakable resolve. For dozens of exchanges they fought, their bodies drenched in mud and blood, the sky itself seeming to shudder under their struggle. At last, the Yellow Emperor seized upon a fleeting opening. Sidestepping a crushing halberd, his divine sword blazed with golden light and struck with unmatched swiftness. Clang! With a deafening metallic cry, Chiyou's head flew high into the air, a fountain of blood erupting from his neck. His body collapsed heavily into the mud, twitching briefly before falling still. As Chiyou fell, the dark clouds above slowly began to disperse, sunlight piercing the gloom and pouring down upon the battlefield. The wind and rain ceased, leaving only the sound of ragged breathing and scattered cries of pain. The warriors lifted their gaze to the Yellow Emperor, their eyes filled with awe and relief. The battle was over. Chiyou's wrath died with him, while the Yellow Emperor, through blood and unyielding resolve, had won peace for the realm. After the Battle of Zhuolu, the Yellow Emperor finally defeated Chiyou and united the tribe of the Flame Emperor with his own. This fusion was not only a covenant forged through blood and sweat, but also the very beginning of the Huaxia people. Mountains, rivers, and forests bore witness to the birth of this new nation, while the surging rivers seemed to sing a song of unity and renewal. Although Chiyou was defeated, his bravery and unyielding spirit on the battlefield commanded the respect even of his enemies. The Yellow Emperor did not regard him merely as a vanquished foe. With the heart of a true ruler, he ordered Chiyou to be buried with honor, raising a great tomb so that his soul might rest in peace. The descendants of the Zhuoli tribe continued to venerate their ancestral spirit, worshiping Chiyou as a god of war, praying for his protection and courage in battle from generation to generation. In later times, people came to believe that whenever war erupted and storms howled across the land, it was Chiyou's spirit roaring in the heavens, answering the call of his people. And when night fell, the glittering stars of the northern sky were seen as the eyes of the Yellow Emperor, silently watching over the vast mountains and rivers. This contrast of motion and stillness became both a solemn confrontation and an eternal balance between heaven and earth. Thus, the legend of Chiyou and the Yellow Emperor was no longer a tale of enmity alone, but transformed into a shared memory of the nation. In the voice of the wind and the glow of the stars, people could still feel the shock of that primordial battle, and the enduring will left behind by 2 kings. That will took root in the soil of Huaxia, guiding future generations to stand tall and move forward with faith through the trials of time.